Welcome to another edition of the 100 Power Hour. You do not need to adjust your screens. We are here at a different time at 5 p.m. because we want to have a really necessary conversation in this moment about what is happening with our cities and what our leaders are doing to respond to the issues of today. We know there's been a lot of conversations about like crime and violence, and a lot of people were talking about Black men and boys. And so we wanted to have a conversation with some of the leaders within Southwestern Pennsylvania about what they are doing to create better alternatives and community safety and support. So please welcome to Meeting with the Mayors. We are so happy to be talking with Mayor Jojo Burris from Washington County, Mayor Dante Comins from Wilkinsburg, Mayor Ed Gainey from Pittsburgh, and Mayor Dwan B. Walker from Aliquippa, talking about some of the initiatives that they are doing, how they are fighting for our communities, how they are saving our sons. And with that, we want to welcome all the mayors to the 100 Power Hour. Thank you all so much for joining us. And Mayor Jojo, I want to talk with you first. Can you just talk a little bit about your community in Washington and what being a mayor has meant to you? Looks like Mayor Jojo may be having some technical difficulties, so I'm going to ask you, Dante, the same question. Well, Mayor Cummins, let me be respectful. Mayor Cummins, I'm asking you the same question.
I started talking. I forgot I was on mute. What was that first question again?
Just talk a little bit about your community of Wilkinsburg and what being a mayor means to you.
Oh, man. My community, Wilkinsburg, we're about 14,000 people. We are like the sixth largest Black neighborhood in Pennsylvania. If we talk about per capita, it's the second. We are a beautiful, thriving community who's on the upward path to becoming everything that it needs to be. We are a star in the eastern suburbs. We have an amazing school district who is putting out a lot of students that are thriving in this world. We really have a lot of black clouds over us. So, my job now is to just get the people in here to see that we are a beautiful community with a lot of openness and a lot of opportunity to bring businesses here and also raise families. So we're just trying to spread that word. And just because you leave the city or anything, you don't got to leave Allegheny County. You can come home to Wilkinsburg. We got 3 wards, but I always preach that one Wilkinsburg.
Thank you so much, Mayor Cummins. Coming to you, Mayor Walker, can you just talk a little bit about Aliquippa and what being a mayor means to you? We're having a little bit of a technical situation with Mayor Walker, so we're going to bring him back into the stream. But Mayor Gainey, can you just talk a little bit about the city of Pittsburgh?
Forget I was on mute. Hey, it's just great to see all these mayors, Jojo, Dewan, and Jojo, Dewan, and my man Coleman. It's so good to see everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. I mean, the reason why I wanted to honor these 3 first before I spoke, because I think they do an incredible job of just how they represent their community, how they represent being mayors in their respective neighborhoods. I always say a child can only imagine what he can be when he sees something that looks like him. And so in the city, we've done a lot to try to make sure that we reduce homicides in the city. Reducing homicides was one of my biggest priorities when I came in. And, through the years, we've reduced homicides by over 30% in the city of Pittsburgh, 42% to be exact. But we also made sure in the African-American communities that we reduced homicides significantly, close to 65%. which is something that is major when you talk about reducing crime in neighborhoods. The other thing is our Stop the Violence Fund. We used a lot of our Stop the Violence Fund to be able to fund organizations that really deal with our young people. We believe that one of the ways that you help organizations be able to help our children is if you give them the type of funding that they need to operationalize them. So that was the second thing. And the third one was our youth civic leadership program. We partnered with Youth Enrichment Services, yes, under Dr. Floyd Jones, and CCAC helped out, as well as Rob Cherry with the workforce development to talk about how they can get stipends to learn about government, as well as put them in a situation where they're talking to us about the youth and what we can do to better help them. So we did it from a couple different angles to make sure that we were making an impact. And then we did something called value proposition, where I would go around to the schools and just talk to the kids about the value of life.
Thank you so much for that. And coming back to you, Mayor Walker, the same question. Can you just talk a little bit about Aliquippa and what does it mean for you to be mayor of this great city?
Oh man, can you hear me pretty good?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Apologize about that. No, I've been the mayor for 13 years in the great city of Aliquippa, LA. Lovely Aliquippa. The city that's on the rise, 10 minutes away from Pittsburgh International Airport, 25 minutes from downtown Pittsburgh, 30 minutes away from Ohio and West Virginia borders. And again, it's an honor to be the mayor of Aliquippa. I always take that as a, um, you know, as a badge of courage. I mean, we're more than football. We're the heart of steel. We're the reason why you can unionize. April 12th, 1936, the reason why you can union right now is because of the Wagner Act was signed and voted on in Aliquippa, Pennsylvania. So we're a city of first, and we pride ourselves on being a city of first. What we do about violence is we pick it back off of those who are doing it better than we are. That could be anywhere from Prudent Man. That could be anything from, Beaver County United, Stop the Violence. There's a lot of organizations that we support that are doing the heavy lifting. And sometimes you just need to be in that space and be a good connector. So if they do need some needs or have any concerns, that we can address those by the connections that we have. The people on this phone, the people watching, we try our best to communicate the ills and wheres of our communities, because we know our best days are ahead of us, but you can't do this alone. We need some people that'll help us do that healthy lifting, so we can get where we need to be. Being that our communities are always underserved, underprivileged, underpowered, so we got to work twice as hard to prove and dispel the narratives, and we try to do that every day. But yeah, it's an honor to be the mayor of Aliquippa. I absolutely believe so.
Thank you so much for that. And it's an honor to sit down and talk with you all. All of you have been creating initiatives, outreach, because you want to address like violence and concerns within your cities. Mayor Walker, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here with you.
Starting with you, can you just talk a little bit about like Washington County and some of the great things that y'all are doing there to like build community?
Oh, you mean Mr. Burgess?
I apologize, Mayor Burgess. I apologize. I think Mayor Burgess is going to join us momentarily. But since I called you out, Mayor Walker, I'm going to come right back to you.
Okay.
Can you just talk about some of the initiatives? I know you said you're more than football, but can you just talk about some of the ways that you have been like showing up for like the key people in your community and trying to find ways to innovatively address issues of crime?
Again, the issues of crime are bigger than just showing up. That's the main part. But the resources is what we need. But again, there are people doing some heavy lifting in this community and Beaver County as a whole. So you just support them. I mean, you show up if they need you to address any concerns you may have. I mean, that's Beaver County United with Heaven Lee and Prudent Man with Mr. Quan Lavender, Boys and Girls Club at the high school with Dr. Woods, and any Franklin Center. There's a lot of people doing some heavy lifting, and you just show up for them, because again, certain cities like ours, we don't have the resources like Pittsburgh may have or Philly may have, where we can allocate funds to those specific needs. So sometimes you got to offer sweat equity and your connections and who you know and who you connected to bring resources. I'm also on the board for Ceasefire and local progress, and there's a board of members that use these resources to get and allocate things to your community. Um, and again, and I think that's what you got to do. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. There are some people doing some amazing things out there. And you just got to just say, hey, how can we help each other? And tap in, and hopefully those organizations will let you tap in and use whatever resources they have to help support yours. Richard Garland, he's another resource out of the city of Pittsburgh who offers his assistance in here in Aliquippa. I mean, so we do, we reach out, man. We know we're not an island. That's only Revis Island. That ain't us. And we want to make sure that we do our part to be readily available at any table that we're able to sit at, and ask for help and ask for support, because I think that's what's needed right now with all these impasses and things that are going on in the world and the federal and state level. We got to be able to find it somehow. And then you have to be in those spaces and be cooperative with those spaces so those things can happen. So that's what we're doing. We're just connecting dots. We're just getting close to people. Let them be great. Stand in the background. Let them have their that's their moment. And you just support them whatever they need.
Coming to your mayor, Danny, because Mayor Walker raised a really important point that with the federal government, there may be a shutdown this week. Pennsylvania still has not passed its statewide budget. So there is like a resource issue. Outside of the funding, what are some of the other barriers that you as mayor have been encountering as you're trying to find different ways to address community support and safety?
I think one of the main things, particularly with everything that's going on DC, is courage. Being able to stand up in the midst of a lot of the things that is going wrong in Washington, D.C., and all the cuts that they want to make and all the scare tactics that have come out of D.C. has created a lot of anxiety in these communities. And I think that a lot of it is that we forget the fight of our ancestors. Our ancestors had less than we had less than we have. We have way more than what our ancestors have, but what they did have was courage. They never were scared to stand up and say and fight for what was right. And so my whole conversation is a couple things. One is collaborative leadership builds power. And so as we talk about the cuts that's happening in DC and all the other ill wills that's coming out of there, one is that we have to come together as a community and as a region to talk about how we can support one another, because there's always a way to do it. If they did it back then, we can do it right now. But it doesn't take a solo artist. It takes a collaborative spirit. You have to be collaborative in order to make that happen. That's number one. Number two is you also have to, ensure that the investments that you're making is investments that's going in the areas where people can feel those investments. Even though they're being cut, we're still going to get a certain amount of funding that we have to be able to allocate to areas where we know that we can make a difference. That's number two. Allocation of resources is critical, particularly as they start to make these cuts. And then third is just being able to ensure that we can speak out against crippling issues like DEI, ICE, and those things that make communities feel less safe. And so we've been working on that. And we've made that a priority, that we're going to stand up to what's injustice at all times. If our ancestors did it, there's no reason why we can't.
And coming to you, Mayor Comins, listening to these other mayors talk about some of the barriers. I know you said earlier that Wilkinsburg is like there's a dark cloud, but can you just talk a little bit also about some of the barriers and challenges that you have faced?
Well, it's similar to my big brother DeJuan. We're not a big city, so we have to really lean on people that are doing things in the community with these partnerships and just getting out there and letting people know what's needed. If closed mouth don't get fed. So if you're not saying anything, you're just really just letting it go by and just being okay with what's going on. But there's so many, luckily in Wilkinsburg, there's so many businesses that want to come in here and do great things. So we're leaning on them to do right. Like we needed a community center. So, I've talked with my man Ryan Sanders and Aaron Donald and Archie Donald, and we got together and I helped them spearhead, the Legacy Wilkinsburg that's coming. It's going to be 40 unit development. It's also going to have a community center built where it's none of, Wilkinsburg is a borough. We don't have to pay for it. We don't have to man it. We don't have to pay employees. So just things like that, and leaning on people like Metric Community Health that want to do a lot of great things for people. Last year we gave out 400 turkeys, and about 200 gift cards to families in need, like not just turkeys, but whole meals. So it's just leaning on what you got, man. You know, we come from a civilization of people who really strive on the bare minimum, but make it look like we walk around with a fur coat and thriving, but we're doing good. We're healthy. We're living. We're waking up. We got a home to live on. Our bills is paid. So we take what we got and we do great things. And I just really just appreciate my big brothers right here that I have. And anytime I need an ear, they're here to listen. You know, us in the city, we overlap so much. So we have organizations that help us both. Like we got Cure Violence East, their boots on the ground helping out. You know, that overlaps. They have East Hills and Homewood along with Wilkinsburg. So, you know, we all need each other. So just leaning on people, leaning on organizations, letting them know what you need, because if they don't know, you can't assume anybody just knows what's going on. So I just lean heavy on that.
A lot of times people look at the cities as what's going on and say, like, why isn't crime zero like overnight? How have you been able, going back to you, Mayor Combs, how have you been able to like manage expectations, but also talk to people? This is like real life or death. Like, if we don't have this community center, our kids may not have other places to go, and so they may find trouble. Like, how are you able to have these conversations, and what responses are you getting as you're like talking to people who are really, whether it's the news media or what they're experiencing, really concerned about this issue?
I really don't talk to the news because they only call when bad things happen. They don't come to the turkey drives or they leave me out of situations. So I mainly just speak on what we're doing great. You know, like I said, we do got the crime prevention. We got the violence interrupters that are on the street. Most of the violence that's happening are people that is coming through neighborhoods. Same thing with the city. Same thing with Alcoa. These people are from other places coming and doing things. So they're a lot of people on the ground. Like we just keep kids busy. Like we have community forage where we have the boot up program, and under boot up program, we got Wilkinsburg Youth Council. I'm very, very involved with them. We just did a 5K where I'm out there with them. Longest, you just have to be visible. And that's one thing that all of these mayors are powerful, and we're visible. They see us out there, so we are hands on. You're not going to really get mayors that's out there that's talking to the people and known some people since they were little kids growing up and get that community feeling. So I just basically just talked with them about all the positive that's going on, because we are, like I said, we're getting that black cloud, and most of the black cloud over us is people that haven't been here that's talking bad on us. It's not anyone that's in here. It's just people that's assuming that's always out on the outside looking in. But I'm telling you, when you come in here, it's bright like we on the sandy beach. So I just do things that, like, you know, lean on Cure Violence. I lean on Wilkinsburg Youth Council. We have a great relationship, me and my chief. So we just try to do initiatives about, like, you know, we're trying to get people from the community to see if they want to become police. This is just like the city of Pittsburgh. This is the first time in years where we got a new contract without it going through arbitration. So we were able to do things like I pushed paying for people to go to the police academy, also paid them while they're in the academy. And once they're out, they're going to be, you know, starting salary of almost $84,000. So, you know, we're trying to get people who don't want to go to college or anything, and it just went from the community, want to protect the community, give them a job where they can feed their family.
Thank you for that, Mayor Cummins. And coming back to you, Mayor Walker, the same thing. Like, when you're having conversations with your community members, what are some of the things that they are bringing up, and how have you been able to navigate some of the expectations that people have for you to rapidly respond to all the things that are ongoing?
I mean, I think the word relationship has to mean something. And what that means is just like in marriage, there has to be a true relationship between the community at large and then the police force that serves them. It can't be like I keep telling people, 48. You know, first 48 ain't 30 minutes. It's 2 days, and you got to understand that. People think 48 hours is 30 minutes. No, you have to understand the police have a job to do, and we have to make sure we have to provide the information, because every one of those episodes on First 48 says somebody came forward, somebody said something. That's how this case got cracked. That's how this got happened. So the expectation has to be, us obviously working hand in hand, but it has to be a true relationship in all assets. But I think the biggest issue that most people, we don't have any black officers. I mean, we don't have any minority candidates because we're probably one of the lowest paid police departments in the state, let alone the nation, because of some of the distress status that we had to go through for the first 37 years of our under distress status. We just came out of it in 2023. So now we're playing slowly catch up by doing these contracts to get our police force what they need, and the hours they need to do their job, and pay to do their job. And I think that's another issue. But I think the biggest issue, like I said, just facing each other. Like, sometimes you have killers and people around you who do things and people don't say anything, and we have to be conscious of that. Like, we gotta, yeah. Like my dad always said, if I yell at you at home all day, I know somebody in the street gonna yell at you. And you can't, later on the days are not my child, not my kid. Them days are far. This is a generation that's has a cell phone in their hand, and information is flowing every day. So, I think the main part that we have to realize is that, just understand who we are, who your kids are, who they hang around, what they do, and where they're going. And being active in their life is one. Um, the city has raised so many children who made it out and are successful. And so they good lights and bring back lights. I mean, you got in Aliquippa, we got superintendents who were born and raised here, mayors and council people who were born and raised here, football players who were born and raised here. So you can make it out of Aliquippa, you can make it out of Wilkesboro, you can make it out of Pittsburgh. There's avenues to success, but you can't put yourself so who you hang around sometimes might be your downfall. And understand what that looks like, ask for help, and then be ready for that help. And I think that's some of the things that I think for the issues that we face. And I wish we can combat that. Sometimes the biggest blessing you have is the people. And then sometimes the biggest curse you have is the people, because you can't control emotions. You can't control how people respond. You only can control how you are, how you respond, how your police will respond, how your administration responds. You have to be able to respond. And I think that's some things that, it's always a work in progress. No one has that figured out. I think you asked a question in the beginning about expectations. I think the expectations on these gentlemen and myself on this call is always higher than ones that came before us. They expect us to know, be, where, go, know all these things. And I think that's you know, I think that's just, we're the same but different. We are more harder on ourselves than anybody could ever be, and I think that's something that we have to be conscious of, that we want our communities to be beautiful and safe, and it takes, you said, teamwork and everybody involved, but I think that's the thing too. So
Thank you so much for that. And coming to you, Mayor Danny, you talked at the top of the program about the reduction in gun violence, the reduction in homicides, and a lot of people see that as numbers. But you are someone who's also experienced gun violence within like your personal life, and so can you just talk about like why it's so important for you to address the homicides, but also outside of like policing and prisons, what are some of the things that you have found has been like so important to interrupt the cycles of violence?
Yeah, well, I think that the reality is overall the community is good. I mean, I think that we have been trained to truly talk about our community in a negative way. And I'm listening to these gentlemen talk right now. You can hear them talking about the community in a positive way. But when you look on the news, when you read the newspaper, or when you hear on social media, what you hear is the downfall of the neighborhood, the negative impacts of the neighborhood. But they don't talk about all the good people that's come out of these neighborhoods. They don't talk about all the successful people that's coming out of these neighborhoods. And a lot of times we as African Americans end up following mainstream media, and we market and advertise death more than we market and advertise life. And when you do that, you end up going into the narrative that they want you to produce. And so a lot of times what we've done is we've always focused on positivity. And having the platform of the mayor gave me the opportunity to do that, particularly with the level of scrutiny I knew that they would bring against me. You can either let the negative shine or you can let the positive shine. And what we've done is we let the positive shine. We wanted to make sure that we made a reflection in the city of just how African Americans is, not what they stereotype us to be, but who we are. So first and foremost, you got to understand the difference between growing old and growing up. And I tell these young people all the time that they got to choose their life and not the street life. You got to have real conversation with them. And I ask them to go home and talk to their mom, whether it's in their family or their friends, how many of the people that they grew up with grew old but didn't grow up. It's a heavy conversation for a young person to have with a mom or dad, because it demonstrates to them just what it means to be able to take life serious. And we have to be able to do that. But from a media standpoint, if we don't start talking about the young men and women that got A's and B's in school that's doing good, that is becoming something in life, we have to promote what we want to be. We have not promoted the great qualities of our community. That's not on mainstream media. That's on us. We don't promote the good. And until we promote the good, then we're going to get what we get. We talk about death more than we talk about life and wonder why we still talking about our children dying. We ain't talking about life. Life and more of life is life, and you want it more abundantly, you got to talk about it in a positive way. We got inundated in the fact that all we talk about is the negative of our community. You know why? Because it sells. It sells, whether it's in music, whether it's on TV, whatever it may be, it sells, but that's not who we are as an overall community. And so when you talk about the jail, when you talk about the penitentiary, all of it is injustice, because there's no way in hell in the drug game everybody can use drugs at the same rate, but the penitentiary look like me. There's no way. So we already know that it's a problem. But also we got to teach our kids that easy money is listen. Look, easy street money is easy, right? It's easy access. But the degree that you get is death in penitentiary. Long money is, learning, the ability to learn, the ability to have education. You get degrees and money. What we need to start talking about, regardless of how we feel about the system, is we need to start teaching our kids capitalistic tools. Because as long as we live in a capitalistic society, if you're going to be able to destroy or debunk the mindset of poverty, then you got to teach people how to get out of it. It's cool to give them a workforce development skill, but I wish I'd have knew about taxes when I was in my 20s. I wish I'd have knew about real estate. I wish I'd have knew about life insurance. I wish I'd have knew about the things that move money overnight while I'm asleep. We don't teach our kids how to survive. We say go get a skill, but then skill is good. I'm not taking that away from that. But if we don't begin to teach them capitalistic tools so that they can prove the quality of their mind, their life, then they'll never change their mind. That's why you have teachers, police officers, elected officials. They live check to check because they still got a poverty mindset. Until we teach them how to build real wealth, we can't come out of a poverty mindset setting. So we got to do a lot. But in terms of our children, if we taught them, listen, my neighborhood, the Wan's neighborhood, Tay's neighborhood, every day they take dirt and make dollars. Every single day. Our hoods are so creative. They know how to take nothing and come home with something. Before there was Uber and Lyft, there was jitneys. You know what I'm saying? And they make money all day long. You know what I mean? We know how to go get that money. What if we knew how to invest that money? What if we knew how to flip that money, not just to flip it to continue to flip, but flip it to build and diversify industries so that we can go into different industries and make more money? Then what can we then think about how many blocks in our community we can buy? We got to start thinking outside of the box and stop talking about what we don't like, understand the rules of the game and learning the rules of the game so we can influence it. Until we get there, then we're just going to have a recycling. We got to continue to knock on the door. There's no reason it took all these years for us to have 3 black major contractors on construction jobs. We should be kicking the damn door in regardless who the mayor is. But we ain't focused on those things. We focused on the negative. They got us chasing our tail instead of building paradise. Our ancestors built with nothing. We got to change the game.
Right. I mean, we also known like for doing a lot with a little,
Right.
and also like when you sitting at the table, and also, my dad always say be conscious of who's sitting at the table with you, because sometimes look, I don't mind if you eat off my plate, just recognize that I got to eat too. You can eat off the plate, but just recognize that we got to eat too. And somebody got to point out this ain't easy. This is not for the faint of heart. If anybody told you running for office is for the faint of heart, like it's going to be rainbows and butterflies, chest bumps and high fives, told you a lie. This is not for the faint of heart. And to run cities who we know our best days are ahead of us. But where we came from, we're dispelling rumors and changing in the windows and taking it down strongholds, pulling down structures, and working with people who want this city to be better. Our youth want it. We know we planting seeds that we ain't gonna sit underneath the shade of. And what's that foundation gonna look like? Is it accountability? Is it love? Is it passion? Is it understanding? Is it faith? Those are the things that people want to understand, that I know I ain't gonna see the next 30, 40 years. I'm praying that I do, but I hope whoever takes it after me takes it further than we could ever take it. But they have to have a solid foundation. And what's that look like? And we know that. And we conscious of that. But see, the same gift that it gives you also holds you back. And I think that's what people don't understand. It's just like, not to just piggyback off of Ed. It's just a tough situation with one, they don't even know their neighborhoods. We stopped teaching about the neighborhood. Look, you got 3 Hall of Famers, but everybody ain't scoring touchdowns. Everybody ain't, going to the pros and going into the Hall of Fame. Everybody ain't doing that. So teach your kid a different way. Teach them a different way, an avenue to go to. 250 people get drafted. There's thousands of college athletes in this world. So hey, get that lambskin, get that degree. So if you blow your shoulder out a knee, that's $80,000, $90,000 sitting on that wall. It shows that you are committed. Them 4 years you gave, so that you have staying power, that you have learned, that you have adapted, and let them know a college degree or trade is the best way to go to sustain your family. You got people that my dad was an electrician. I got people around me, carpenters. They making money. And those are glamorous jobs. Listen, they ain't shirt and tie jobs. They get up and go jobs. That you can go anywhere in this country with a carpenters, with an electrician, and get you a job anywhere in this country, as long as you got that certification. So, we got to glamorize all this stuff. It ain't just about Sundays and Saturdays and college. It isn't. But they have to hear that more often than they not. They have to hear it a lot.
Hey, I'm gonna jump in here, and I'm sorry I missed most of the conversation. I'm at work. We had some emergencies going on down here, if what's up, Ed? If I'm repetitive, please say this. But one thing that I learned in my community, especially in my community, because these kids that are coming up have the same names of people that have been in trouble before. Some of these parents and some of the people that I grew up with, I have a hard time with telling them it's not okay for your kid to do this and for you to be okay with it. We got to start teaching them how to be good people instead of having a name and being something else. And it really falls back on, we got to also educate some of these parents on what they got to do and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I literally had a friend I grew up with in the projects down here that says when his kids get in trouble, they're just my princes. Anybody that talks about them or says anything, I got something for you. We got to get away from that mentality because we're doing it to ourselves. We got to start educating and saying, no, teach them a different way, because we can all, as elected officials, say whatever we want. But I can tell you that I get a lot of people that says, you just think you're better than me because of where you're at. No, I came from where you're at. Go ahead. Sorry about that. Give me 1 second. I'm at work. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, take your time. Now, Dante, I see you over there, nodding your head. All of you are parents, and there is this conversation of like, how do you raise children and give them opportunities and have them be accountable, but also create situations where their mistakes, they can learn and grow from their mistakes. And as Mayor Jojo was talking about, sometimes people don't have an example of like how to raise their children, how to punish them, because they don't want to break them because the world is already breaking them down. And so what are some of the things that, like, as a parent, that you even personally wrestle with, like as you're trying to raise your child and making sure that they're going to be okay?
Just My kids are so young. My kids are some of these people's grandkids' age. But at the same time, it's the same thing. You gotta watch who they're around. You gotta, talk to them, ask them how their day was. Just don't assume just because they're away from you that they're good. No, you gotta talk to them. You gotta actually talk to them about their future. I tell this to a lot of people. No one's ever asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. And when you're growing up living like that, you're just going to school. You just go to college. But it's like, all right, what's your end goal? So my objective is, me and my wife is just, what do y'all want to be? Because we're going to focus on that. And if that's the best thing for you, that's going to be the best thing for you. But we also expose them to everything. My kids been around these leaders. Summer Lee's my kid's godmom. We just exposed them to what we weren't around. They're around. Anytime I have a speech, I'll either have my son or my daughter with me holding them while we're doing it. They just have to see that the road is at their fingertips. It's not holding them down. They're not. You're going to be way faster than anyone else. You're going to jump higher. You're going to do back bends better. You're going whatever you want to do. You're going to be the best at it because you have parents that'll put you in that position because we had good role models. We have mentors, and we can only do so much. So it's always important too. Once they get that age, they're going to have a mentor because we have to. Me personally, I have to be what I didn't have, and I know a lot of people are great parents because they live by that. Like what they didn't have, they push it on her, being giving as much love. I'm home with them as much as possible. My mom, she was a single mom and I was a latchkey kid. So I was just out there. She's working for Port Authority. So she's at work till 2 a.m. So I just, know what to look for and just be on her, be on them. I almost cussed. Just be on them and just be honest with them. Never lie to them because a lot of people get disappointed when like, dang, you're just a liar. So that's just how I live by it. Yeah, bud.
Yeah, go ahead, Mayor.
My dad always say, first law of nature is self-preservation. How can you please and love anybody if you don't love yourself first? Teach them to love themselves, But when you teaching them to love themselves, teaching them to love themselves the right way. That like I'm a girl dad. I got girls, and I pour into my daughters, and I let them know that they could be anything they wanted to be. Because my parents always said that. I think we have to understand, like, be honest about our kids. I think, like my dad, I quote my father, but that's what I had. Don't ever put anybody on a pedestal. The only one is God and Jesus. Those are the two that you put on pedestal. Everybody else is on the even playing field. Because if you put somebody on a pedestal and the minute they hurt you indirectly or directly, they lose credibility. And once you lose credibility, it's over. Once you lose that, it's over. And you have to recognize that once you lose that, it's just like you can't get that back sometimes. And I think we do have to have honest communication about our neighborhoods, who we are, where we come from, who you hang around, who your kids are being influenced by. One, stop telling their kids they're just like their father, like mother. Stop heaping coals on their head, speaking death over their life. They didn't ask to be here, so they owe you nothing. We owe them everything. And the minute we realize that you are not like your mother or your father. You're not like any of them. You're gonna be great. Pour into them, man. Like you're better than your circumstances, but it's just so tough. When grandma's 40 now, grandma ain't 70, 80 years old. Big mama ain't around no more like she used to be. So you got babies having babies trying to teach these kids. I mean, I got both of my grandmas.
Where'd he go?
We lost your sound, Mayor Walker.
I can't hear
And
him.
he's going. Mayor Walker, your sound went out.
We're defending them when they're wrong, and I think that's the issue. Instead of just saying no, my mom would have turned me in. I'm gonna tell you flat out right now. My mother, if I did something wrong, Friday nights, my mom cleaned out our drawers. Monday, we came. My mom was like, "When you get home from school, put your stuff away." She searched our room. She checked on us. She watched who we hung around. It was just that was different parenting back then, and I think we just have to be honest about this is a new generation where you got the cell phone in your hand, man. and they got information flowing so readily. Beef start on these phones. Before you had to go to a pay phone and walk down the street. Now they can start a beef 20 minutes away from each other, 5 feet from each other. And it's just so much, things coming at them, bombarding them all the time. And I think that's the scary part about this world and this generation, man. It's just we've lost so much. We've lost people passing away that would teach you pour into your kids in all of our neighborhoods, and they're gone and they're far and in between. And I think that's the struggle. Letting them know that you could be anything, you could do anything. You're not the circumstances. You're not who was around you. You're more than that. You're better than that. You're conquerors. You're strong. You're kings and queens, and making them feel, and then also showing them that avenue, because you can't tell somebody something unless you show them, and we got to show them that.
And Mayor
Hey,
Jojo, I know
I
you
want to I
wanted
want to
to say
jump in there real quick with something else too that and again, like if I'm repeating something that was said earlier, I'm sorry. But one thing that I deal with a lot of these younger people is this, what they call the code of the streets. I ain't no snitch. I ain't gonna tell on you. If you told on me, there's something wrong with you. I'm gonna get you for that. Listen, if you do wrong and you're adult enough to do wrong, you got to be able to be adult enough to take those consequences. I tell my kids all the time, you better tell because I will tell. And you know that, listen, we got to get away from protecting bad behavior because that's what they label us as, savages, always in trouble, always doing this. Whenever we condone the behaviors and stuff like that. Last summer, I had a kid that killed his brother over a girl. And when the people, give me 1 second, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Troy. Whenever the people, you're very static. Say that again. I'm sorry, I'm at work. We have a thing going on.
go
But I
ahead.
do want
Go
to
ahead.
say, I got that.
And it's
Okay, I'm going to have to go out to this, but I'm going to leave with this last point. That kid, the girlfriend of the one that was shot, was threatened for telling who it was because you're not supposed to snitch. That young girl now has a child that's about to be born without a father, and she was threatened and had to be moved to different places and stuff like that. We got to start educating enough that we stop protecting bad behavior because it's cool and it's acceptable. As long as it's acceptable, we'll continue to have some of the things that we have deteriorating in our neighborhoods and our communities, and it ain't going to help us one bit. Hey, I am so sorry. We have a situation going on here at work.
it's
I
okay.
do
Thank
have
you
to
so
step
much.
up. I wish I could have participated more. Uh, Brothers, I love you guys all to death. You know that. I will be in touch, and y'all have a good evening.
Have a good night,
Be
big
safe,
dog.
man. Be safe.
I'm coming to you. Thank you so much, Mayor Jojo. Coming to you, Mayor Ed Gainey. I think what Mayor Jojo was talking about is how do we reach people before they get to that situation where they're picking up a gun? Like, what opportunities do we need, particularly our young Black boys, so that they have different avenues, so they never have to worry about getting to a gun, or they never have to worry about being in the street?
Yeah, that's a question that's always thrown out there and always asked. But the reality is that there's not one way. There's not one way. If it was one way, we wouldn't be having this conversation. It's a whole different ball game. I can just talk about my experience. And Dante got a wonderful mom. I've been knowing his mom since we was kids, and me and Walker, our families go all the way back. So what I'm saying ain't gonna be strange to them. But growing up, there used to be this thing that you have to have some type of street smarts. And if you didn't have no type of street smarts, then it would be difficult in life. And what I've learned through life is that you can't give your life to the streets. You can't follow the streets. The problem is when you're living in a home that's impregnated by the streets, it's going to birth one or two things: death or penitentiary. And a lot of these kids get turned out right on their block or right in their house. Like the first time you've ever seen somebody load a gun and you 14 or 15 years old, it does something to you. It definitely does something to you. And then we got young moms, like my mom was 15 when she had me. And I had a strong grandmother. But a lot of people where we grew up at was into the street life. And there was a lot of places My mother wouldn't let me go because she understood the activity. And understanding the activity, she didn't want me to become that level of a statistic. And so not wanting me to become that level of statistic, the fight was always my desire to want to go there and her desire to keep me away. And the reason why you want to go there is because all your friends is there and you really don't understand what's going on. You just want to be hanging in the street. And what I tell kids now is to choose your life and not the street life. The greatest thing in life is growing up. It's a beautiful thing. Growing old, you guarantee growing up is a choice. Like I became an adult at 21, but I didn't become a man until I was 29. So it takes time to really, mature into a man. I mean, we can talk about it, but there's a lot of different things. Like we glorify street. You know what I mean? We glorify the streets in the hood. Like, if you was a big drug dealer, oh man, bro, so and so was all that, man. You so and so son, you his nephew, oh your daddy's a legend. We got hood legends all over, but none of the hood legends are doctors or engineers or people that have a sustaining career in life. We're glamorizing the wrong thing. But whether you turn on the TV or whether you listen to music, and I love rap music, so nothing against it, but the reality is the lyrics that they sing every day is lyrics they believe in. Like I tell my son now, like, you can listen to what you want to listen to, but most of them ain't living that life. So don't get caught up on what they saying, because for real, when you really dive into their life, they're not living with their rapping. You know what I'm saying? They're not living with their rapping. So, you got to be able to decipher what's good and what's bad. There's no easy way. There's no books to being parents. You can't read a book that's gonna make you better. You just gotta, you just got to be able to relate to your kids. Like us three right here, we grew up. We more like the good times generation. We grew up in the projects. We grew up in situations that most people will feel unhealthy. Our children won't even know what the good times mean. They grew up more like the Huxtables now. You know what I mean? Being able to be in a different environment and things of that sort. I don't want my kids to know the streets. I know what happens when you know the streets. I want them to know about their own life. If we can get our kids to focus on their own life, on growing up and not just growing on focus on why learning is so important, being a student of life. If we give them and expose them to the opportunities of what they can be, we don't have to worry about just exposing them to the streets. You know what I mean? The streets ain't the only thing out there. But that's up to us, the daddies and the moms, to really be exposing our kids to a greater quality of life. The greater the quality, the more you live. And it took me a long time to get there, and I'm not gonna lie to nobody. So, I get it on a grassroots level real well. That's why I can relate to so many of them. That's why I don't have no problem going into any hood and being able to talk to them. I can go talk to these kids because I'm gonna tell them straight up, this is what it is. We want to sugarcoat it. I ain't here to blame you. I'm here to give you this game. Now, I can't make you, I'm not here to convince you. I'm here to give you a choice because I can't convince you anyway. And that's why, for me, I never, because I think this is important. I think if everybody seen their life like this, the world would be better. Like some people say, Eddie, you the first African-American married. A lot of these kids look up to you. You a role model. And I have to explain to them, I'm not no damn role model. Let me just be clear. I am not a role model, and can't nobody make me a role model. The people that I've studied in life that helped me change my life around, whether it was Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Coretta Scott, Frederick Douglass, Jesus Christ, Moses, King David, whatever, none of them were considered to be role models. What they was that their life was inspiration. And if you can use my life as an inspiration that you want to do better in life, then let me be the inspiration, not a role model. That's man-made. They tear role models down. Inspirations, no matter how much you fall down and get up, your life inspires others that they can do the same thing. See me as an inspiration, not someone that was in the street, but someone made a life for my family. If I can help any of these kids do that, then I've succeeded in life.
And so, as we're coming down to our last few minutes together, I also want to talk about, because a lot of you have talked about like your cities and things that are happening. Y'all have music festivals, you have events, you have art. Can you just talk a little bit about some of the things that your city is providing the young folks, like in your region, so people know there are alternatives. Because a lot of times people talk about the street life, and the streets don't love you, but sometimes the streets will entertain you. The streets will give you something to do. It give you this idea of a family, but there are alternatives. So if you talk a little bit of the alternatives that your city are providing. I saw you snapping up Mayor Walker, so I'm gonna come to you first.
I mean, man, you might need some more hours to talk about what we're trying to talk about. I ain't gonna lie, because this is what else is. No one has ever really asked us how we felt about leadership and how we felt about the roles that we played. Y'all the first ones. One Hood is the first one that's ever really genuinely asked us on a platform like this. So I got to thank you for that first and foremost. Number two, I mean, you have art festival, but do I think we do a good job of? I think we do okay. Can we get better? Absolutely. The good kids will always find good things to do. You ain't never got to worry. They got good parents. They always do. It's those kids that, you know, the kids that hang around saying, "Why are you doing that? That ain't cool." You know, trying to provide them with an avenue of success where they can go into it. You know, robotics clubs. We got robotics clubs. We got QuipBots. We got RoboQuips. We got different things that deal with coding and different things and organizations and things that are going on at all times. But opening those doors up to everyone, man. As far as festival, we have, community day, different things, art festivals. We had a Juneteenth festival. We try to, get those things going, but Alaquippa is a melting pot. You got Greek, Serbian, Russian, Orthodox. You got so many festivals in Alaquippa that deal with all walks of life. Because people think, Alaquippa is predominantly black, but it's 55% white, 45% black. So you got enough. Our teams are black, but that's what they think. But no, you come to Aliquippa, in 1 month you can be Greek, you can be Serbian, Croatian, Italian. It just depends on who you are. So it's a melting pot. This city was forged in that. And I think and everybody participates. Everybody, like I said, you can walk in and you Patrick Connie, you Serbian. They let everybody get in. Everybody, as long as you act right, be right, do right, you can go. We can always get along with each other. And I think that's the key to it. It's just like you said, making it readily available to them. We take our trips to Pittsburgh. We do that too. We go to all the festivals, do what we got to do. We do that too. But again, you want to give access to where you live, so you can fix where you rest your head at, so you can have avenues for people to do what they do, so they can either add to, contribute to, or start their own thing. You make the atmosphere conducive so everybody can get involved, and I think that's what we on this phone, try to do our best to do. So it's like you said, like they always say, it's a city for all. Aliquippa is a city for all, and that's what we try to do.
Coming to you, Mayor Cummins, the same question.
We rely heavy on community, so me personally, the borough really don't do too much. We do have our one councilwoman, Linda Atkins. She has like jazz in the park. So we try to get all ages to come check it out. She had Bill Henry here about a month ago. So we got a lot of events like that. But as far as me, I push my community day, trunk or treat. We do try to do something for Christmas every year. We got community people. They do Too Shady Day, the Manhemi and Sakia. They make sure there's an Easter egg hunt every year. We just rely on the community because it's going to take all of us to get to where we need to get to. So I just appreciate that people are willing to step up to help me. And like I tell all of them, I'm here for them as well too. Like we have Cure Violence East, where they have things over at Community Forge for the kids. They'll bring a bus full of kids. They'll come get you just so that you can come and enjoy everything they have to offer. They always have food. There's always going to be stuff for the kids. And that's my favorite thing about that too. We got, over Community Forge, like Boot Up. They're teaching these kids about a code. They're teaching them how to do podcasts. They're teaching them how to, do AI and different tech things. And I think it's a melting pot of like Mayor DeWan said, of people and things. We have Gwen's girls over there that's helping with the girls because, we do have a lot for the boys. We got all these boy academies. We got all these boy things. But, man, it seems like these girls get forgotten. A lot of these shootings are women, So as much as we hear talk about, saving our boys, we got to save our girls, too. They are the future. Without them, we'll dazzle existence. So I feel like, just putting everything together, making this one Wilkesburg movement a beautiful movement, and just watch out for us.
And Coming to you, Mayor Ed Gainey. The same question. Like, what are some of the offerings that you offer some of the young folks so they can come, be entertained, and engage within the community? You're muted.
Uh, the last 3 or 4 weeks, we started midnight basketball as an alternative on Friday nights to a place for kids to go. Now we'll probably end up moving it because one of the things that we didn't take into that equation was on Friday night. Right now, the biggest festival period is football. You know, high school football is big, and the kids are at the football games. So on Friday, you don't have a lot of kids in the street because they have the football games. So we'll probably end up moving it to a different day to continue it. That's one. And then two was, we also wanted to make sure that we was teaching our kids about government. Like, I didn't meet my first elected official till I was in college. So, having the Youth Leadership Academy really helped us out because it got to teach these kids about government. They got to sit down with the mayor. They got to learn about different departments. They got to learn about the budget, and they got paid a stipend from Partners from Work to learn. So it's not like you was just there. You was getting paid a stipend, and CCAC gave them 3 college courses. So, that right there really, highlights their ability to be able to interact with government. I had, when I first came in, we had enough money to bring in youth interns. I had 2 youth interns with me. One of them said before they left, they said, I had a different opinion of government before I came and I was able to shadow you. Now I got a different opinion. It's a more positive opinion because they got to see exactly what we did and how we worked. The third thing, when we talk about the arts, there's so many different arts things going on in the city that, the city doesn't run, but we provide as much cooperation as possible, whether that's, Harambe in Homewood, Harambe in East Lib, whether that's the Greek festival, whether that's Pride, whether that's any the Latino festivals, whether that's the African festivals, whatever it may be. I believe, culture is what makes a city great. We started the first ever International Day Parade and festivals to be able to highlight all the different countries that live right here in the city in the greater Pittsburgh area, because we wanted to be able to demonstrate how powerful immigration is and why we need more immigrants to increase the population and build the city. It's the first time. Now, we did not have it this year out of fear for ICE and making sure that nobody's life was in jeopardy. But these are the things that build cities. This America is built on the backs of immigration. And so if we know that the whole system is built on that, we have to invest in that. And so we use arts as a way to say, listen, people are only going to stay where they see their culture in your city. So it's important that we make sure that they see themselves in our city. This was the first time in over 20 some years, the last 2 years, we had population increase in this city. Like, that's amazing. And again, that's all about culture. That's all about investments and making sure that you're putting your investments in the right place. So, look, I love this. I love the struggle. I love the fight. You know what I mean? Like, I love it. So for me, it's, every day getting up and having the ability to improve, your family. Dante is a phenomenal father in my eyes. Like, he's the first elected official that I've ever seen bring their kids on a regular to everything. Like, as a child, I wish I would have had that. I didn't have that. You understand what I'm saying? So, there's a lot I didn't know. That's why I say I come from the good times here. You know what I mean? Section 8 projects and stuff like that. I come from where good times. We didn't have JJ, but we had a lot of JJs in our neighborhood. So my kids will never know what that means. But I don't say good times because of poverty. I say good times because of love, just like in the sitcom Good Times there was. And so I look at it differently. Like, my kids, it'd be much more probably the Huxtables, right? You know what I mean? Because, honestly, they're not going to see a lot of the things that I saw. I want them to focus on their life. That means something to me. So me and my wife is always pushing that. We push that, we want them to see them go to college. We want to see them graduate and have a life. If you go to know any street, know Wall Street. You know what I mean? Change Wall Street. You know what I'm saying? these streets will change you. Wall Street, you can learn how to influence and make it better for the block you came from. So, I mean, there's a lot that just through time I've learned that I always deposit into my kids and also into the greater community.
And a lot of you hit on this a little bit earlier with the advent of
Uh,
like social media and how that is creating a lot of issues, a lot of conflicts because of the pressure. So for parents or even just like young people who are trying to find resources, where are some of the places like they can go? Who should they call within their various cities to get like more information or to get involved? I know a lot of y'all have mentioned like so many great organizations. Who should they reach out to get like more information to get their children involved in these programs or get involved in these programs themselves?
I'll go first. In the borough of Wilkesburg, you can contact Wilkesburg Community Ministries. They always need volunteers. You can contact Community Forge. They have a lot of programs like Boot Up and Wilkesburg Youth Council, Gwen's Girls. We have also we have what's it called? Revitalize Wilkesburg. They could go in there. You could try to be interns with the Land Bank, Shade Tree Committee. There's a lot of things. We have a junior council member. We're looking for another one that attends council meeting. They even vote. So we just try to give them that full spin of everything that we can do.
Mayor Walker, you're muted again. I apologize.
I would say just in Aliquippa Economic Development Corporation, or it's our nonprofit. You got, your school. Dr. Woods does an amazing job with providing resources to all our kids in high school and elementary school. The school is your biggest resource, besides the home, and leaning on the school for those things. Churches out here that do a lot of things. From deliverance with Bishop Wallace, Pastor Jamar Mike, Ricky Jackson. There's a lot of pastors out here that do a lot of things for our kids. Tap in. They all need resources. They all need help. They all need sweat equity. Maybe you don't have the money, but you got sweat equity, and offer that up. I think, like I said, the local government academy, because I think the biggest misnomer too is just people don't really understand how we work, how mayors work. Getting an understanding of what our powers are, what we can or cannot do. Because I think that's the biggest misconception is that, oh, you should be able to do. No, you're limited. There's some rules that apply to us that don't apply to some. Obstruction of justice. Why? Stepping in and things you ain't got no business doing is just protecting yourself, your reputation, your city, your town. I think those are all that, that's important. Miss Mead, Yolanda Mead, she does a heck of a job by bringing civil engagement back to the high school. We got a debate team now. We got QuipBots. We got all these things that are important for our kids to have access to, other than scoring touchdowns and shooting jump shots. But then we have to make that cool, though. We have to talk about those things so they can gravitate to it like a moth to a flame. And I think that's important, and I think that's why, like Dante said, and Ed, we have to be engaged at all times, open and honest about all things. We don't have the luxury to be otherwise. But I think that's the most important thing is just, tapping into these people who are doing it better than we are, and then making sure that, hey, how do we get there? How do we get our kids there? What can we do to help you? And then if you know that, then that'll help out everything else.
Thank you so much, Mayor. And coming to you, Mayor, again, the same question. What are some of the resources that you would like to share for people in your community?
You're muted.
There's a lot of resources all throughout the city. There's so many that I don't want to name a whole lot and forget one, and then tomorrow my phone get blown up. Like, I was seeing you on one hood, you didn't say my program. But there's so many, like, if you really want to get in, but I tell people, look inside your neighborhood first. I don't know a neighborhood. I got 90 neighborhoods. I don't know a neighborhood where there's not something going on. I don't know a neighborhood where they don't have anything. I think the one thing that in our region, it's not just Pittsburgh, I would say the whole Southwest, is that when it comes to African Americans and what's going on, we don't really have a media outlet to be able to express to the multitudes exactly what's happening, exactly what is going on in their community. We don't have a broadcast for people to come on and talk about, like, hey, CEA or somebody's having this day. We don't have a real live communication. We don't have a real live radio station. We have Whammo, but it ain't Whammo of 20 years ago. We don't have the type of resources that we used to have to really get out information. One Hood does a great job of giving us a platform, but if it could multiply by 100 times, then you would be able to touch majority of the city and the outskirts of it. We just don't have it. We haven't had it. So, and then we were inundated with institutional thinking too, like the same conversation when I was coming up, the same conversation today. We don't have enough for our children to do. But there's a lot. You heard Dewan just talk about Aliquippa. You heard Tay just talk about some of the things up in Wilkinsburg. There are things to do. The key is how do we connect that relevant information to the constituents in our cities, in our municipalities, in Aliquippa. We don't have that. It's not that there's nothing to do. There's more to do now than there's ever been. We've had more African American events in this city, more Latino events in this city than we ever had. I mean, you could see the growth. The problem is, how do we communicate it? And the fact that we don't have a vehicle that can reach the masses is always a problem. We have to rely on traditional news that has never promoted us in a way that says we can be seen. They promote us as a way of saying we can be viewed, but they don't promote us in a way that we are seen. But some of that we changed. But it took, some of that changed. It's a lot. It took a lot. They told me when I first got elected that, the reason why they don't like me is because the image and the interest. You never had a black mayor from the city of Pittsburgh. You know what I'm saying? That changes the image. That means I'm no longer viewed. I'm seen. I have no choice but to be seen. So you have to use that as the pulpit to be able to change things. Well, it's the same in our neighborhood with our children. We do have organizations that's doing a lot. It's just that from an African American perspective, what is our vehicle to connect? A mom standing on Hamilton that might not be in the know because she, it is what it is. Like, just things happening right in her neighborhood right now, right? But she don't know nothing about. You could be in Wilkinsburg, right? On Franklin Avenue. There's things going on right now that they're not in the mix, so they don't know nothing about it. And it's funny because that's where the streets become so the allure of the streets become so strong. They know more about what's going on in the streets than they know about what's going on right in their neighborhood. That's a fact. And so we got to change that. And it's because the only way we change it is if we create our own communication vehicle. And that's why I'm proud of One Hood. You know what I mean? I can't stay on too much longer, but I'm proud of One Hood. I'm proud because this is the first time that, for real, there's a venue that gives us an opportunity. When I say I wish it could reach 100 times of what it do right now, that's because I know the power of it, right? Right? I know the One Hood power of it. It's just that no one knows how to get there. No one knows how to scale up that high. But if we're going to be information in the information era, we have to find a way to be able to reach those people to build the nation that we want to build. And that's what it's really all about.
Thank you so much for that. And then I got to know if for young folks, please reach out to Alexis Walker, who's the education coordinator for events and resources for other folks. We are at time and our mayors do have to go. This is the first of an ongoing series of conversations. So please reach out. But we know everything that is happening. People are taking this very seriously. We understand that people are grieving, they have questions, they want answers. But there's a lot of work that is being done, and the crime rates are going down. But every life that we lose to gun violence, we are mourning, and we're trying to do the work. And so there are educational resources, there are supports. We talked a lot about cure violence and the work that they are doing. And so to please, please reach out to your city council folks, reach out to these mayors. They can get you resources, they can get you support. So it's like very important to let people know there are alternatives out there. There are work that is being done. And so before we wrap, I'm gonna give each mayor an opportunity to have one last word, and then we will close out. Starting with you, Mayor Walker.
I would just say, one again, thank you, One Hood. Like I said, you probably needed about 3 hours to get off our chest what we wanted to get off. But I would say, one last word is just, be the change you want to be the change you talk about. You know, be unapologetic about who you are as a person. It can't be about clickbaits all the time. It can't be about likes all the time. It got to be some substance to it. And I think that's what you have to understand, that being in this community and being from where we're from, you know, we cannot be our own worst enemy. You know, we might not always agree on everything, but we cannot be our own worst enemy. We come together under a tragedy, but as soon as the tragedy ends, we fall apart. And we gotta the sustaining power of us staying together is so more powerful if we could just stay together all the time. There's 365 days. We come together for a couple of days and we fall apart for the rest of those 364 days. And I don't understand that. And I think, and that's what people need to understand, that, I'm only as good as my first yes and my last no. You might invite me to a cookout if I tell you no. You might not speak to me because I told you no. But we have to understand what this is about. You're held to a standard. No, and I just think we need to be the change that we talk about, that you wish for, that you hope for. Again, we're planting seeds that we may not sit underneath the shade of those trees that are going to be growing. But we have to be, as Martin Luther King, your life blueprint. What is your life blueprint? What do you want people to see? When I die, I hope they said he loved Aliquippa with his whole heart. Oh, that he gave everything to the cause. That he tried to hold Aliquippa to a standard. And that he was a hell of a father and a hell of a man. That's my obituary. That's what I want you to say about me. People gonna have their misconceptions about who he is or what he is, but at the end of the day, I loved and I was here and I made a difference and I tried my best to do it the right way and make a difference the right way. So yes, I think that's the part of shot that I would, don't put anybody on a pedestal. Anybody can let you down by yeses and nos. That's how simple it is. But just be, courageous in what you do. You walk your own path. You're not alone. Know when you need help, ask for it, but be the change you talk about. So thank you for the opportunity, One Hood. I truly appreciate this opportunity. You don't even know. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor Combs.
Yes, I'm gonna say the same thing. Shout out to One Hood. I appreciate
This is
everything you
not
guys
about
do.
us. This is about y'all and the
No,
work that
no,
y'all are
no, no, no. I
doing.
almost wore my shirt, but I was like, no, I won't do it. No, but for real, invest in our youth, invest in these young men, these young women. Get together, buy up all these abandoned properties before the outsiders get it. Or Wood Street, there's open storefronts if you're looking for somewhere to bring your business. It's in Wilkesburg. We love that Gwen's Girls is setting up their new building here. SCIU bought their building here. We just got a Metro Community Health coming back to Wilkesburg. We have a lot of storefronts on Wood Street as well as Penn Avenue. My goal this year is to build, or this term, should I say, that's coming up, is to build either a bowling alley or a skating rink. So anybody out there that's looking, contact me. Hit me up, 412-244-2920. My office number comes straight to my cell phone. I'm all with building. I answer it. I have no secretary. I am my secretary. So, reach out. We got Wilkesburg Land Bank. They're clearing up all those tangled titles. Wilkesburg School District strong. We got Spanish from pre-K up to the 6th grade that we have. Disney musical partnerships where we're thriving. Just bet on Wilkesburg. Why not Wilkesburg? One Wilkesburg. All the hashtags. Man, I just thank y'all. And November, vote for me so I can get me another term and we can get things done.
Okay, luckily we're a C4, so we don't have to worry about violating any issues. But Mayor Combs was talking about himself on behalf of himself.
Yes, this is not an endorsement. This is all me.
I approve that message.
Mayor Ed.
Hey, Tay, look, check that. I approve that message too.
Right.
Hey, but you said something, Tay. Look, you got a one hood power shirt. I ain't got no one hood power shirt. You know what I mean?
See,
Man,
hold on, listen, that proves that we are not doing anything illegal, right? That proves y'all
I
can
ain't getting no
stop
one.
right
I ain't getting no one shirt either.
right,
Ed.
right,
No,
right.
I bought mine. I bought mine from
I'm in
food.
my feelings right now, Ed. Too. I need a
I bought
4X.
mine.
I
I bought
will.
mine to food
I
to
will
deliver it to
send
me.
everybody. I promise to some people. I will send everybody their one hood stuff as support. We have not gotten anything in return, so please do not use this
Yeah,
as a
I
media
bought mine and Flip delivered it to me.
as a media story. Okay.
I listen. That's too funny. I want to thank you, Miracle, for having us. One of the things that I've been talking about publicly and everywhere I go is that collective leadership builds power. And I want just everybody to continue to think about how we move out of silos because it's been poison in this city because everybody wants to work in silos. But when you look at other cities and the growth of other cities and the expansion of other cities and the business of other cities, it's collective leadership that builds power. And so we still got to figure out, how we work together. We got the NFL draft coming next year. And we know that 80% of the prospects are going to be African American. That's what they call them, prospects, the families that's coming for loved ones that's going in the draft. We know that we have to be able to do something to demonstrate how, to put African American culture on display. It's a great opportunity because it's a global audience. Collective leadership builds power. We have to still talk about how we hold accountable corporations and government to make sure that they're doing what's necessary to diversify contracts so that everybody has an opportunity to be able to build wealth. Collective leadership builds power. We got to make sure that we're doing on the ground and investing the right investments so that our children are not choosing the street life, but choosing their life. So we got to make sure that we're working with organizations across the board. Collective leadership builds power. We have to be open to immigration. We have to be able to tell people why it's great to live here, because the more culture that they see of themselves in the city, that's where they raise their family. And so all together, going into next year, it has to be about collaborative leadership builds power. And when we do that, we'll continue to change the narrative of this city.
Thank you all so much for that. And I see some of the questions in the chat. Someone, Dr. Sharnae Hearn Davis asked, Mayor Gainey, do we have resources for our 18 to 24-year-olds to do a civic engagement? It was a specific question. Like for you, I'm going to do a couple of rapid fires. I'm pulling stuff from the chat. So we have opportunities for the 18 to 24-year-olds. And if not, how do we get that going?
They did have that when we first came on. We focused on high school. And the reason why, to me, it was more important to focus on the high school is because, like I said before, a lot of time, and I think you heard the other mayor say it, it's the kids don't have that opportunity, right? They don't have an opportunity to meet a mayor, a council person, learn about government, get paid for learning about government, get college courses. All those were strategically done because if I can get a child to get 3 college credits from CCAC, now I got that child focused on going to college. Okay, he got 3 college credits already. If I'm paying them a stipend to learn about government, I'm opening their minds to something they haven't been exposed to. So I didn't have a problem with the 18 to 24, but as someone that grew up in the city and understands some of the dynamics, if I can catch you in 9th, 10th, 11th grade, I'm doing something that's going to make you, it's going to send a different message to you. And so for me, it was that, how do we get that group? People would say, well, let's keep it 18 and 24. Nah, let's invest. Let's invest in our youth and get a better product. 18 and 24, if there's a way of doing that, yeah, you can do that. And, they may go back to that. But I'm telling you, to see these kids come into the city county building, to see these kids work with the youth enrichment services program, to see them be able to talk about government, gun violence, drug and alcohol, broken families, to see them see themselves differently, to expose them to the Hines History Center, the August Wilson Center, and every other one of our partners that came in, to see the light go off in their eyes is why I know that they'll have a better opportunity, because they seen something they wasn't exposed to before.
Thank you so much. And I'm coming to you, Mayor Walker. Someone said, what initiative program can be started to help the young men in Southwestern Pennsylvania?
And the gentleman that asked that is Jaquan Lavender. He runs a program called Prudent Man, and he teaches them. And he's a young man teaching young men about their role in the society, about their role in their families' lives, their role to themselves and their brothers' keepers, and being connected to them. I think that's important. Southwest Pennsylvania, no, it's not where it should be when it comes to those initiatives. You'll get more money to tear down a building than you do to build one, and I
Come
think
on now.
that's so we're missing the boat on all these things. Land banking is key, but I just think the initiatives he's developing them. The school is trying to develop in them. Your local resources are developing these programs that, like I told you, you might not have the resources, but you got the sweat equity. Going into the schools and telling them about what civic engagement looks like. Again, if you reach one, if you touch somebody personally, that could change the tide by saying hi. Just saying hi to someone could change the tide. But we got to be in these spaces, and then our stories. Those programs that are connected to those. Why did you get into Prudent Man? Why did you get into the co-ops? Why did you get into robot? Like, tell the stories of why these kids walked into these clubs and these avenues in your community. Let the story tell the day. We don't, again, somebody that's their age can sell it better than we can. So lean on that, because that's important. And again, I just like telling our stories. Me and Ed come from, we lost our sisters. Telling them the true real of why we are here. There's most people could have went south, but we stayed here. And I don't mind iron sharpens iron. I'll call Ed, I'll call Dante, JoJo Burgess, Keith Jackson's, Mad Kenya Johns, Kinder. These are people that we can connect ourselves to, who are doing it in their communities better than we call Mayor Slaughter in Williamsport. I'm just telling you. So the programs that are doing all across the state, you just reach out. Hey, what are you doing for kids? They'll send you they'll give you a blueprint. And if you can't do it yourself, you can connect it to somebody who can do it, who has the resource to do it. But we just got to get out our own way and just go get that. Go be active in that. And I think that's the one thing. The initiatives in Southwest Pennsylvania, some of that money got to come from Philly. It stops in Harrisburg and doesn't make its way out this way. That money needs to come out this way so we can provide resources. The crime prevention grant, we lost it 4 times. If we'd have got one of them, it would have forced the school and the city and all the collaborative Beaver County to work together. And this is what we up against. Give the resources to the places that need it. We need it. And I'm unapologetic about Alaquippa. And I'm unapologetic about the men on this call and the people watching, because if we don't speak up, we're in rooms that don't look like us. And we got to be present in those rooms, because again, I'm 6'1", 300 pounds. I don't run fast, so I'm telling you what I need. I'm right here, and I know I can't do it alone. But people need to understand these initiatives that can change our lives are not being funded. There are not resources for in Beaver County that can support them. And if they're not being supported, they die on the vine. They're just ideas that just keep getting talked about and talked about. So no, Lavender said it best. Lavender is one of those good kids, one of those good young men who are trying to make a difference, not only in PA, but in Steubenville, in West Virginia, all over. He's trying to raise prudent men. And I have to applaud him for that.
Thank you so much. And I saw Mayor Ed Gady, like, raising, nodding his head. I do, since you shouted me out, I did want to shout you out, because you did get all the Black mayors together and you did say, hey, this is how you get some state grants. This is how you get some money and some funding. And there has been a lot of funding that has come into Southwestern Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
So someone did say double. I don't want to lie, double the amount of money in Southwestern Pennsylvania because of your leadership. And so I do want to also, credit you with that, because I know you've been doing the work and you talk about telling our stories, but having a lot of like support and resources. I think that's also been some of the things that we've been talking about, because crime is not just down in Pittsburgh, it's down all throughout Southwestern Pennsylvania, because some of the initiatives, you brought people together, you brought in Democrats and Republicans together through this region to say this is what you need to do, this is how you need to support folks. And so I do think it's very important for that. And I know you're muted, but I just wanted,
Yeah, I
you know,
appreciate it. But
not,
that's what that's what
I
I've been
think,
saying all along. The progress that was made, we can't abort it, right? We got to keep going and go get it. And I think the time is different now. That's why I keep saying the time is now. People didn't believe me, but we've demonstrated that we can do it. But it can't be with yesterday's mindset. And because I've been around a lot of them, I know people's mindsets and where they're at. Bringing all the African American mayors together, that was threatening to a lot of people. So a lot of people didn't want to see that happen. But I knew that, it's the only way you get things done. And so I know I got to get ready to get out of here. I hear people calling me upstairs, but I got to do some husband duties. I mean,
listen, I tell them, as I said, thank you so much. I
I
know
don't
you
say
did.
that, but it's the truth though.
Yeah, yo, she said,
Hey,
try. Listen,
yeah.
I listen.
But Ed, I'll give you your roses too. Ed brought me out of my shell. I mean, I've been a mayor for 13 years, 4 terms, and I was so constructive just being in Beaver County and Aliquippa. But then he was like, Dewan, this is you the Jedi. You've been doing this a long time. But when I
Yes,
was mayor, when Ed was a representative, I used to go up there and talk to Ed and Jake and Rob Massey. And I used to go up there at Harrisburg, take my trips and sit down, you know, with those resources. How can I get this Ed? So when Ed became a mayor, I told him all the time, like, man, what can we do together collaboratively to bring this out? And Ed took us to Harrisburg. Ed put it every time the political campaign came through, they tried to shine us. Ed was like, nah, you gonna be in these towns and these places, they gotta shine too. They gotta be in the forefront, they gotta be up front. And again, only people like him who are in those spaces can make things like that happen. Small things happen so big things can flourish. And that's a
that's what
beautiful thing, man. And I gotta say that, Ed, I
I
love you, bro,
appreciate
and
that.
I appreciate you, man.
Love you, bro. You know that, hey, man. I appreciate that. But look, I got to get out of here because I told him I'll be done by 6:30. I knew I was gonna be over, but I'm blaming Miracle. It's all
You can
Miracle's
blame
fault.
me. It is
Miracle,
my
I
fault.
blame you.
I'm gonna let y'all can both blame me. I want to thank y'all so much.
Hey,
Both
I
of y'all
love
can leave.
y'all. I appreciate y'all. Have a good evening.
Love you,
Mayor
Ed.
Coleman had to leave because he also had father duties. So again, our mayors are real people, fighting for real issues, but also they have their private lives. So I do want to thank their families. I want to thank their wives, for the coworkers for letting us grab them. We've been trying to get this, on this program for weeks now, and there is just a lot of moving parts. And so I do also want to thank all of y'all for tuning in. I have one request. Please go through the comments. If there's someone you do not know, please add them, please friend them, please send them a message, because it is going to take all of us together. We are literally looking at, an unprecedented disinvestment within our communities. Millions and billions of dollars has been taken, from our communities. And so if there's one thing you can do, it's build a community with somebody else. Also reach out to our elected officials, our senators, demand that they support, investment in our communities, because it's really, really important. And you'll see some more work that we're going to be doing. But again, also letting people know that on November 4th is election day. You have until October 20th to make sure that you are registered to vote. So please make sure you're registered to vote. A lot of y'all keep saying we don't understand what's going on with these judges. We don't understand. So we are going to have, a special in 2 weeks about the judges. Lies in 3 weeks about the judges. We are going to have also a special episode about, Black women in Pennsylvania. What do we need to fight for as Black women in Pennsylvania? So that is something that's also in the works. We're trying to get people's schedules together. So there's a lot of conversations. So we do want to thank you all so much for tuning in. When it comes to the judges, we'll explain why we're telling people to vote yes in a couple of weeks. So again, please make sure you're following us, on all platforms, One Hood Power. If you can, please make sure you donate to One Hood Power. We are a 501c4 grassroots organization. We want to make sure that we're building collective power. There's so many great people in the comments doing great work. It's up to all of us to make sure that we're doing the work, that our kids have an opportunity. We have a fight to have zero gun deaths. That's what we're fighting for, to have zero gun deaths, zero gun arrests. So we are fighting and we're mobilizing because we want more for our communities. We know our communities are capable of more. We know we have a future that is worth fighting for. So again, thank you all so very much for tuning in. I am your host, Miracle Jones. We'll see you next time on the One Head Power Hour. Enjoy the rest of your evening.